Good morning. Welcome, everyone, to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance, Tommy Krysan here with you on this Friday morning edition. TK over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, presented by, of course, Tremonti's. So you can check him out over there on twice a week. Tremonti's, the best hamburgers, I'm telling you, in the whole city. Also, I'm at an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Go check out our 2025 class at lasportshall.com. It is highlighted with, I guess, Andrew Whitworth, the big name of that 2025 class, but that's some great stories. You can read about it at lasportshall.com. It'll be next summer, the induction. And, of course, we are presented by LeBear's Casino, which is where we'll be tomorrow morning for Sports Shorts Radio from 10 to noon. We'll be over at LeBear's Casino in the ESPN Bet Sportsbook. So if you're in around when I come have breakfast, if you get there before 10, or if you want to have lunch, which starts at 11, come join us over at LeBear's at the Sportsbook tomorrow from 10 to noon. Derry Beckwith will be with us as well. All right, so today on Sports Shorts, some things to get to. LSU football at home, 6:45 kick tomorrow night against South Alabama. They are a 20.5-point favorite. It's an interesting line, Tommy, because no Harold Porter. Harold Perkins, excuse me. Well, it'd be neat if they didn't have any Porter. Harold Perkins Jr. tomorrow for the first time, and that'll be the way the rest of the year because of the injury. But I want to see how LSU's defense handles this gigantic loss. He's the most talented defender. They've played him in a lot of different positions. Some have worked more better than others. But the point is that without him, they are thin at linebacker. They are limited in maybe some of the schemes they can do. And even if they're able to run the exact same defenses, they're probably not going to be as good with someone else playing the position rather than him. So I am one that don't love betting LSU or Saints unless I just have a really strong feel one way or the other about it. This is one where I'm a little nervous. South Alabama went 0-2, got beat. North Texas hung 50-something on them, all that stuff, the first game of the year. But the last two games that they've played, 87 at home against Northwestern State, 48 on the road against Appalachian State. So their offense is feeling really good. A lot of confidence. Has hung up a lot of points the last two games. This is a defense that's trying to figure out life without their leader, a guy who was a preseason All-American. Their best defensive lineman, out for the year. Their best linebacker and leader, out for the year. So I don't know. I feel like there might be some growing pains this weekend when they figure out how to live without Perkins at linebacker, and it may not be the week to test the point spread in the 3 touchdowns. It may, especially with Ole Miss 2 weeks away. This, I don't know, Tommy, how you feel about it. I'm going to let this one go, but if I were to bet it, I would buy the 0.5 point and take South Al plus 1.
Well, I bet it this morning. I got South Alabama plus 20.5. And here's why. One, LSU is yet to cover the spread this season, okay? And South Alabama with head coach Major Applewhite, who is a Catholic High product and has bounced around from Texas to Bama. He's been in a few different places. Well, he's the head coach, and he's the offensive mind guy. And the defense is the question mark for LSU. Certainly I think LSU is going to win the football game. Now, if it's close in the fourth quarter, anything can happen. But I think they're going to win. But all the things you just pointed out about Perkins, about the defensive line, and the susceptibility to the big play. I mean, South Alabama's coming in. They'd like to do what Troy did, 6-7 years ago, come in and shock the world. And, what they've done in the last 2 weeks. Now, 87 points, Northwestern State. Northwestern State's not going to win a game this year. They're struggling. They're going to struggle. But still, that's 87 points, and it makes you feel good. It makes you be confident, like you said. Confidence is the most dangerous thing in sports. So I took the 20.5 points. Clearly, I do think LSU win the game, but I'm glad to know, like my buddy Dave in Vegas used to say, when you got 20.5 before the game starts, it feels good, at least for a little while.
Yeah, no question. I'm surprised you took South Alabama without buying that extra half. I know you hate buying points.
Well, and that now that you got 2-point conversions, and I mean, I just don't know that to buy a 0.5 point means what it meant 10, 15 years ago. Like, in the NFL, they said if it's 2.5, you got to buy that half to get it to 3. Well, now in the NFL, the extra points not as automatic. And, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever actually bought a half a point or not. Now, Trey Blossman, who did a podcast with me for many years, he's all about that. I mean, if it's that 3.5, 6.5, 2.5, 20.5, like this line, he does it without even thinking twice. Of course, it changes the juice. For those of you who don't know, it just changes the juice a little bit. It might not be 110 to win 100. It might be 115 to win 100. But that's just not, that's just not what I do. Now,
Uh,
my Ronnie, but okay, Ronnie, but because there's two sides of the coin. Last night I had the Giants +6. Well, they lost by 5, and Dallas missed a late field goal. So sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it don't. That's why they call it gambling. That's why everybody goes to the ESPN Bet Sportsbook at LeBear's. It's gambling. You might win, you might lose.
by the way, Dallas, there's been so much heat the last 2 weeks up there in Dallas. I don't know that win last night is going to take the heat off of the Cowboys because the Giants they don't look very good, and it was an ugly game.
Ronnie, the Giants, talk about heat. 2 home games, they haven't scored a touchdown. That's never happened in the NFL where a team had 2 home games to get their first 2 home games of the season schedule where they did not score a touchdown. Daniel Jones, much maligned. Neighbors had a good day, good night. Didn't get a touchdown, but he had like 12 catches for over 100 yards, but he left with a concussion. Micah Parsons of Dallas left with an ankle injury MRI today. So, man, and then a lot of talk last night. The game was boring, and the penalty flags. It's just there's so much conversation, so many plays with so many penalties on it, and many times multiple penalties on the play. Some fans, they saying it's just a penalty and a commercial thing. That's all you get when you get to NFL is commercials and penalties.
You mentioned Neighbors left with a concussion. I mean, just think about the last 10 years, Tommy, in the NFL, particularly at the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you're not going to name everybody, but just look at when OBJ and Jarvis Landry, what they did when they burst on the scene. They set records not only for their teams, but some for the NFL as wide receiver. Obviously, Landry's retired, OBJ's, near the end of his career, but the first 6 years of those people, those guys' career, they were, stars in the league, stars of their team. And then you get into, what Jefferson and Chase have done, and they're basically in a battle to be the best receiver in the NFL when healthy. And then, Joe Burrow comes on the scene and takes them to the Super Bowl. And then now you got Jaden Daniels that's, in there showing off. And Malik Neighbors is doing unbelievable things in New York. I mean, it's incredible what the LSU brand is and just the LSU football player has the success they've had at the next level. Even more so than some of these highly touted Alabama players that have come out, of Alabama and burst onto the scene with just as much hype or more hype in some cases, and it hasn't worked out. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm sure Bama fans are following all their guys, and Ohio State's following their guys. But the LSU brand is alive and well, and a lot of ink, a lot of publicity, a lot of impressions, I guess is the word we want to say, which helps the entire athletic department. It helps the university, and it helps the state of Louisiana.
So Tiger Stadium, maybe you sat it out last week because it's going to be too hot. Don't sit it out this week. It's going to be perfect. The weather is just amazing. Chamber of Commerce kind of stuff this weekend. So
Football weather, as they say.
right. So go enjoy it. And like I said, South Alabama on paper, not as unbelievable a game as we thought going into the season. Now it's going to be interesting because, I mean, you got the storyline of can thing. There you go. Got back. The storyline of can LSU's defense do its thing against a high-profile offense, a prolific offense over the last 2 weeks. It's feeling its oats. So good. And can they live without Perkins? So there's good stuff there. All right. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints for a minute. New Orleans Saints a dog on the road, 2.5 point dog on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. A big game already, kind of for both teams. I mean, Atlanta doesn't want to go 1-3. They could easily have been 3-0 the way the ball has bounced. They're not. They're 1-2 after a tough loss last week at home against the Chiefs. The Saints are feeling, good about where they are 2-1 overall, but at the same time, okay, all right, is that, the offense was, literally a record offense through the first 2 weeks. Was that fool's gold? Did we just face one of the better defenses in the NFL? Or was it just one of those days? Where are we as an offense? Is Taysom Hill going to play this week? Like all those questions.
Well, and Kamara had limited practice the other day. And the other thing, it's an NFC South game, so that could matter down the road if it becomes a tiebreaker thing. So it's very, very important in that regard. And then it's Dirty Birds, Saints. A lot of New Orleans fans are going to go to Atlanta. Todd McClure won't sleep between now and Sunday. And then, the Falcons, his game's going to be chippy as it usually is, or salty, whatever you want to say. Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, can the Saints rebound after the loss? I mean, there's a lot of storylines, and it's Saints Falcons, who, in the entire existence of the New Orleans Saints, they've always been in a division with the Falcons. It used to be Rams and 49ers, and then all that changed. So, their entire existence, I guess it is the rivalry, and
Is.
it's the longest rivalry. I remember the
Yeah.
62-0 the Falcons beat the Saints in Tulane Stadium one time. I was at that game, and I was one of them kids that I can't leave. I'm at an NFL game, so stay for the whole thing. I was a youngster, but anyway, it's Saints Falcons, and that gets everybody's attention in the NFC South and in Atlanta and in New Orleans.
Yeah, no, I mean it is the Saints' number one rivalry. It's the fans' number one rivalry. It's overall. I go back to I'm a child of Big Ben. The Hail Mary pass. The big it was called Big Ben. Where the Falcons broke the Saints' heart in the late '70s on the last play of the game in the Dome. I mean it's definitely a hatred there between those two organizations, and a lot of fun. Fan bases are similar, cities are similar in the sense that they travel well to both towns. The fan bases talk a lot of smack to each other, and so looking forward to that. Noon on Sunday, Saints find themselves a 2.5 point favorite. Tommy's not going to buy the half and take the +3, but a lot of people will.
I tell you what else I already did this one. I took Georgia -1 against Bama. I know I jumped off the NFL there,
Yeah,
but while we were talking point spread,
Alabama is a dog at home for the first time in 110 games or something like that,
a
120
lot.
games. And I like Alabama. I like Alabama at home. Georgia had that weird game against Kentucky on the road, only put 13 points up. Alabama had the weird game early in the year against South Florida, and people are like, look, see. But they had that same game against South Florida a couple years ago under Nick Saban, and then rolled. I think at home, I think they played really well the last couple of weeks. I think winning a game on the road in Wisconsin in that environment probably does a lot for their confidence in that team, and they've looked different since then. And so I don't know. I can't bet against South Alabama. I mean, I can't bet against Alabama at home, especially if they're only a 1 point dog.
There you go.
The world of college football has been buzzing this week, but not because of the play on the field, because of the activity off the field. We talked a little bit about it the other day on Sports Shorts. Another player has gone into the portal, but much has been made this week about the UNLV quarterback who's leaving the team after being 3-0 to start the season. And his version of the story is I was promised by an assistant when I was being recruited $100,000, never got my money. School came out and basically said, no, that's not the case. We gave him everything he was promised. I don't know where he came up with that. And we're willing to give him $3,000 a year for the next 4 months. And so instead, he's going to redshirt and play out, go into portal, and have one more year of eligibility left. It's unbelievable. Some people have strong feelings on it. It's basically, who do you believe, right? I mean, if you believe the school that they're telling the truth, then you can go like, okay, well, the hell with them. And if you believe the player, you go, okay, well, I see where he's coming from. I mean, it's just, unfortunately, I don't know that we'll ever know who's telling the truth here unless there's a text message or audio recording of a conversation.
there's no paper trail and there's no contract. That's part of the problem. But see, many years ago, the NCAA changed football where you can play 4 games or less and still take a redshirt year. You remember back in the day, I think it was a defensive back named Travis Daniels playing for Saban at LSU had to play in a bowl game and lost his red shirt because it was later in the season. Okay, that's an old time thing. But now you got the Mississippi State wide receiver did it. That's starting to happen around the country where these guys we're at that watermark where everybody's pretty much played 4 games. And people are saying, well, you know what? I'm just going to do the red shirt thing because then I'm going to try to go to the portal in December when it opens or bargain for more money. Ronnie, you and I were talking before we rolled tape here. You got to these athletes are going to have to become employees and of the athletic department, which then means you're an employee of the university nationwide. And I don't care if it's at Southeastern or Nichols, you're still going to have to do that, or you're going to get into the he said, and verbal means nothing, Ronnie. But 20 something years ago, I was involved in a lawsuit in Baton Rouge, and the judge admonished me and the other party for not having anything in writing. So if you guys would have put something in writing, we wouldn't have to be here more than 5 minutes. And by the way, I ended up winning that thing. But anyway, so it's the NCAA's fault for not getting in front of this, and there's no way to get in front of it now. But and I don't know how you do it, Ryan. Do you say like, okay, effective July 1 of 2027, here's the new rules, or you grandfather anything in that's already going on? You can't unscramble the egg. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. NCAA's got a mess, and then the thousands of people went in the portal last December. They're talking about many thousands of people going in the portal this year, and I mean it's just
regardless
it's killing the game for the fans.
Whether you go in the portal or not, everybody's a semester by semester employee basically. But I don't like, for example, the Mississippi State receiver that went into the portal this week that was playing well for them. But of course, their team.
He asked the red shirt. The portal's not open until December.
Their team is terrible, and he's got enough tape out there that shows he can play, so he knows he's got value, whether it be for state next year or someone else, and so he's going to leverage that. In an Oogie way, I don't blame that kid. It's Oogier the UNLV situation. You're talking about the quarterback, the most important position on the field, the leader of that team, the guy that already played 4 years of college at Holy Cross on the East Coast. They're 3-0. They have a real legitimate chance of being 11-1 and 12-0 and making the playoff. And he's going to bolt. And so that's the thing that we haven't seen guys on good teams that were doing well, that were the guy. We've seen guys like what Mississippi State's doing, that, all right, well, our team's terrible. We're not going anywhere. I got 1 more year left. I'm going to leverage it. This is a unique situation what's happening at UNLV. So I've never cared about Fresno State UNLV as much as I will this week. I'll be watching that score and reading the Spock score and watching to see what happens because Fresno State's not bad. This is a game that they could beat UNLV. How will UNLV respond? Because, again, like I told you, this is a team that has super high expectations this year. MLB is nearing an end. The regular season is nearing an end. Alex Bregman and the Astros have won the division now for, I think, 4 straight years, 7 of the last 8 years.
7 of 8.
And last night, something special happened for Alex.
Well, he ran out to play third in the 9th inning, and I'm sure they told him about this. And then, while the pitcher was warming up, the pitcher kind of stopped, and they ran a defensive replacement out, which you never do. You don't do that in high school baseball. You replace it at that point in the warm-up process. But that was so Bregman could get an ovation from the Astro fans because there's a chance he's not a Houston Astro next year. So we'll see how that plays out. But hey, last game ever for the Oakland A's was in, and they won yesterday. White Sox keep holding off, losing the most games ever. They've swept. They just completed a sweep. And here's the thing about the Oakland A's, Ronnie. When I was at Southeastern, our uniforms were exactly the same: the green, the gold, the white. We even had the yellow sanitaries, so and the white cleats like the A's had, So I always kind of plus when they won the 3 straight World Series, and I always kind of paid attention to them because our uniforms were basically identical. So that's a big thing in Major League Baseball. But more importantly, the playoffs start Tuesday. Still got a little bit of wild card stuff to decide in each league. And there's a big controversy. The Braves are going to have to play a doubleheader Monday because of that hurricane and the effect of weather in the Atlanta area. And the playoffs start Tuesday. So, I mean, they're talking about the commissioner should have done something better. And you got to play the games because they matter to the Mets and the Braves, whether or not they're going to be in the playoffs. Well, the Braves are in, but the Mets, well, they're both battling. So, you're going to have, it matters. You can't, if this was Oakland versus the White Sox, you'd say, hey, guys, you ain't playing, and get over it. But so it'd be an interesting final weekend to the Major League Baseball. And then again, playoff season starts Tuesday in MLB.
You mentioned the A's. When I was 17 years old, my family moved to Phoenix, Arizona, right at the end of my junior year in high school, and I played for the Scottsdale A's, which was our Connie Mack team. So we wore the A's hats, and then we had different, the same colors. But and I went to a game when I was later that summer. We played in a regional up in the Oakland area and in Hayward, California. And when I went to a White Sox A's businessman special, it was like a 1 o'clock Thursday game or whatever it was. It was a midweek game, and it was an afternoon game. That was the year they won the World Series. It was 1989. So you had McGuire and Canseco and Carney Lansford, and Dave Parker was in the outfield at the end of his career, and they had a great team, and Ricky Henderson in center field and all that. But I went to Oakland Alameda Coliseum, which is where the Raiders played, which is where, of course, Oakland played, and the A's, and that they haven't touched that ballpark or improved it since. It's a dump as far as modern stadiums are concerned, and the A's were, I don't begrudge the owner at all. You got a chance to move to Vegas. They're going to be playing in Sacramento at least in the next 2 years while they build the stadium in Vegas, potentially 3 years. Which is a AAA ballpark. So imagine that. I mean, it's going to be a 10,000 seat stadium that they're going to play in, which is still more fans than they were drawing in Oakland the last few years. So it was interesting. Mark Kotsay is the manager of the A's, and he gave a speech yesterday at the end of the game. I played against Mark Kotsay, played for Cal State Fullerton. They actually beat us in 1992 in a regional here at Alex Box Stadium. He was the Golden Spikes Award winner that year and a great player. But he gave a speech, and called them the best fans and all that. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, I get it. It's a sentimental moment, but if they were the best fans, they probably wouldn't be moving. But
Ronnie, the other thing on that,
future of the A's, the stadium that they are building in Vegas, Tommy. I've seen the drawings. I know the location. It's literally right there by the airport, across the street from MGM and New York, and all that. It's going to be the greatest stadium in Major League Baseball, and the LED and what it's going to be. It's basically going to be half sphere, which is that, the sphere in Vegas, which is the big orb thing that's gotten all the attention with the LED all around it, 360. I mean, it's going to be something like that, as well as a baseball stadium. I mean, it's just, I can't wait. And it's going to be in 28, 27, 28, 29, somewhere up in there that the thing's going to open. I think it's 28 is what they're targeting. But anyway, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and a lot of times professional teams move, but the A's have all the World Series titles and great players and the history and tradition, and it's sad that I saw the picture of the groundskeeper who's been the head groundskeeper at that stadium for 31 years. He was very emotional last time he's popping the chalk line, paint. Well, I guess it's paint nowadays, but anyway, so it's a thing, but follow the money. They did sell out the final game. And people traveled, all lifelong fans who maybe relocated. I've read stories how they flew in for that final game and whatnot, stealing the chairs out the stadium, which probably doing them a favor, taking some of that junk out of there. But go put it in your little man cave or on your back porch, whatever. But yeah, so anyway, that's everybody's got football on the mind, but I'll be paying attention to the rest of the regular season and the playoffs next week.
By the way, the one of the greatest things the A's ever did was they helped discover MC Hammer. MC Hammer was a bat boy for the A's back in the day.
Correct.
Finley was the owner of the A's, and he's the one that kind of helped back him in his career and all at the beginning. So thank you, Mr. Charlie, because MC Hammer, I was a big fan back in the day.
One thing I always also remember about the A's, the first time a player and he's from Louisiana. First time a player ever had his first name on his back
Vita.
of the uniform. Vita Blue from North Louisiana. He had Vita, which is the French word for life, and he didn't have blue. I think he had Charlie Finley petitioned MLB, and they did it. Nowadays that's all about marketing, but that was on the cutting edge. And Finley was a controversial owner, but they won those 3 straight World Series. They said they fought in the clubhouse every afternoon, but when they got on the field, Joe Rudy. I mean, they had some unbelievable teams. You win 3 straight World Series. That hadn't been done before, So I mean, hey, hadn't been done since.
LeBear's Casino, that's where we'll be tomorrow morning for Sports Shorts Radio from 10 until noon. Oh, by the way, United States up 5-0 in the U.S. President's Cup. Sam Burns got a win for the U.S. yesterday. They're dominating the international team right now. Tournament is in Canada, Tommy?
Yeah, Montreal, Canada, and U.S. had a great first day sweep, 5 points to none. It's not an insurmountable lead, but it's you kind of think USA can get it done. They've dominated the President's Cup, and it looks like they're going to continue to do it. I got to see a decent amount of that yesterday. It was fun to watch.
All right, tell us about Tremonti's on the way out.
Yeah, Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Got lunch today, fried catfish topped with the crawfish etouffee. But everything you need for tailgating, high school, college, Saints, going to somebody's house, somebody coming over. They got all the wine, the liquor, the vodka, the tequila, the bourbon, tons of bourbon here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Shrimp rolls, ribeye rolls. They just put a bunch of chuck roasts out there, tri-tip. It's all here. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Stop by on Jefferson Highway. You'll be amazed at all the things they have in here. Everything for your tailgating needs, your parties. And they can do catering. They got a big catering order going out the door today, brisket and chicken, among other things. Stop by Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge. Connect on Facebook and Instagram. They do a great job of getting their word out there. Hey, real quick, don't forget tomorrow night, Court Street Cafe Steak Night over there in Port Allen tomorrow night. Steak Night. They'll have the LSU game on, then their famous Sunday brunch Sunday morning. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. I'll be out there Monday for Sports Shorts Daily. Hey, as we always say, like and share this show. Check out the Edge Lounge tonight at the LeBear's Casino. I was there last Friday. That's a fun night, live music, all that stuff. And we'll be at the ESPN Bet Sportsbook tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Derek Beckwith, myself, Ronnie Rance. Come on out and say hello. We'll have Joel Davis on the phone at some point in time tomorrow. But join us at the Sportsbook tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. If you can't get out there, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. And next week, we got a major announcement about our radio show on Saturdays. Major announcement coming next week about Sports Shorts Radio. We'll let you know. You're going to like it. We're going to let you know all about that. On behalf of everybody here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, I'm Tommy Christ, Sam. Have a great day, everyone.